Hola, podcast family. Your co host Elizabeth here. I hope you've been enjoying season 4. If you haven't dropped us a review on our new season, head over to Apple and give us some stars. We've been feeding you some super dynamic topics, and wow, do we have a lot planned for the next 10 episodes coming out bi weekly every other Tuesday. Today, we have a special Pride Month feature episode. Every year, we spend this particular month highlighting stories from the LGBTQT community where we all discuss self love, embracing your uniqueness, and put a spotlight on untold stories. It can be hard to be yourself sometimes, feeling like you might be the only person that's different in your town, city, state, or country. The truth is, humans are masters in building walls that don't serve us. Community is everywhere. It's here in this podcast, it's on places like Clubhouse, Instagram, and even in your text inbox. Sometimes you have to take steps to find people that inspire us. That's why today we brought Curly Velasquez. Curly is a bright, shining star on social media. His confidence beams through our phones and inspires me to ask, am I the most unapologetic, loving, and fun version of myself? When I first moved to LA, I would see Curly out at Laura's 9-piece parties, always wearing the biggest smile with his signature curls. He reminded me that not everyone in LA is caught up in the world trying to keep up with the Kardashians. Later, I would be inspired by his journey as a Latinx creator for Pero Like, making videos that resonated with me and my own culture. Curly Velasquez is a Central American, Los Angeles-based artist who celebrates all things brown and beautiful. He began his career in fashion working for celebrity photographer David LaChapelle and design icon Jeremy Scott before starting his own line. By the age of 25, he was celebrated as the It designer in LA by H&M and directed an original music video for Interscope Records. Curly began working with BuzzFeed as an office receptionist and worked his way onto the Shorter Than Short form team, creating original artwork and animations for Snapchat. His interest in producing eventually led him to the video side, where he currently acts as a lead creator for BuzzFeed's Latinx division, Pero Like. Curly is working on his project, New Latinx, highlighting Gente Poderosa, la cultura de nuestras tierras, to feature influential Latinx individuals. Welcome, Curly, to the Conscious Kitchen podcast, where we're about to cook up some conscious conversation.
Woohoo! Welcome, Carly V.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me. That bio made me cry. I don't know if you saw my face, but I literally was like tearing up. And also just to like be a super Virgo, I was celebrated as one of the it designers to look out for in LA. I don't want to say like it because there were so many of us at the time who were like coming up, and I always want to share the glory with like all of my beautiful friends. I was saying thank you so much for that. Like, you were so sweet. Thank you for the intro. It was really, I actually cried and it was like really nice. But yes, it's so good to be here. Like, Laura, like we've known each other since we were very young, like in our early 20s. Like, and is Liz Elizabeth or Liz? Should I say? What do you prefer?
Yeah, Liz is fine.
Okay, cool. Amazing. So like, thank you for that story too, because it's always so nice. I always love to talk to people who have known me through multiple phases, because it like makes me feel like I never changed. Like, I'm still that same kid. And even Laura, like before, like when you were kind of giving me the space to like almost forgive myself in a sense, like when you were earlier before we actually started recording, when you were like, if you weren't doing all the crazy shit you were doing, you weren't in LA, you were under a rock. And I'm like, oh my God, you're so right. Like, thank you for that. So thank you for having me. This is exciting. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, Curly. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like, you know, I mean, you're such a example of just of the people like that brings the culture to Los Angeles. And yes, we all go through like different like stepping stones and different like waves of creativity and all these things. But I don't know, like just stepping away from living in Los Angeles, since I live in Madrid, Spain now, it really is truly a privilege to live in Los Angeles, to grow up in Los Angeles and have that diversity of like all the amazing ethnicities and like, and just having that support. And it's like that kind of like unspoken type of support. And it's great that, you know, being around you and seeing you flourish with your social media accounts and, you know, even just in media and journalism is just amazing. So thank you for being part of the Conscious Kitchen podcast. We're going to dissect everything about you and just, you know, all the amazing dimes you could drop for the, you know, Pero Like and everything like that for Pride.
And I also wanted to say too, yeah, because you know, we were in LA when we were coming up, and I just like, for me, I love it so much. I'm born and raised in Hollywood specifically, which is even more niche in LA, right? And I was very fortunate to grow up with so many different cultures from the get-go. The only essentially culture that I wasn't really exposed to was like white Americans.
Mm.
So I knew white people, but they were like Russian, Polish, like Jewish. Like they had like they would go home and they would eat a different food, or would get yelled at by a mother who spoke a different language. So my proximity to different cultures has always informed who I was. So you're right. It is a privilege to grow up. I never thought racist
Mhm.
jokes were funny. I've never made one in my life because whenever people were like, they would bring up a stereotype, I'm like, well, actually, my friend who is that race and culture is like not like that at all. You know what I
So
mean?
good.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, making them question what they just said and
Yeah.
from their
yeah,
perspective.
Yeah, because
Love
it's,
that.
it's like you said, it's a stereotype, right? So if no one really breaks it for them, no one ever really takes the opportunity to stand up and be like, "Hey, actually, it's not like that." They'll just keep thinking that for who knows how long.
however long. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
like, and they'll continue to perpetuate that stereotype without ever knowing. And you're
yeah.
like, I don't know about all that. Like, that's not how my own experience has played out at all.
Yes, yes. And I love that you said that, like, informing, like, and just informing how you view the world, because I saw a post that you posted about when you went to prom, or was it like a
Oh,
junior
yes.
prom?
Yes.
And and
Uh-huh.
and you had like this like beautiful queen of a girl, and you're just
Uh,
talking about her and just saying that, just thank you for the diversity that was around you that
yes.
helped you inform like your beauty standards. And
Yes.
yeah.
She was a Black Filipina woman. She was the queen bee of our class from the third grade to the eighth grade. Like, but I remember looking at her as a little kid, and to me, she was like the most beautiful. Like she was like, I mean, she had all these different cultures in her blood and in her skin tone and her hair texture, and I just was like blown away. And I'm happy about that. Like sometimes
Yeah.
now I meet people who are like, they are still very much attracted to like European features. They like their, and it's fine. Everybody has their own thing. I don't want to bash anyone's kink, right? But like I I like look at people like POC people, and to me, they are the most beautiful. Like I look at a POC features and I'm like, whoa, like I want to aspire to, like, you know what I mean? Like you're like that to me, they're the models in my head. They're the ones who are the true tastemakers and the true beauties out there.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Dropping the truth. So
Already.
cool. Yeah. Okay, so I mean, Curly, we wanted to bring you on for Pride and like just talk about Pride Month and like what it means for you, and if you want to share your story and tell us how you came, possibly a coming out story to your family, that would be amazing, and or
Yeah.
family and friends, and what was that like for you?
Awesome. I do want to say too that Pride is such a privilege. I mean, it's such a privilege to be able to come out. It is such a privilege to step into Pride and owning your like identity. And so I want to be mindful that like there are so many people out there who can't do it, and
Mm.
they shouldn't feel forced to do it. And if you're in a safe space in your home, in your family, in your spirit, and in your life to come out and be proud, definitely do it. I always say there's a whole world out here who is ready and excited to love you and celebrate you for exactly who you are. In saying that, there are some mean queens out there, so just
Mhm.
don't be surprised when you get out here. Queer people can be mean people too.
How do you deal with
Um,
that? Tell us how can you give us some tips on
um,
especially in living
I,
on Los Angeles?
I deal with mean people the way that I deal with mean queer people the way that I deal with mean people in general. I recognize that it's coming from trauma. I recognize that it's coming from their need of survival, and they had to survive for so long by being that way. And so either I keep my distance because I just don't have time for that. Like I literally like I'm like I don't have the spiritual capacity to deal with a negative person. So I'll just remove myself. Or if I want to work on it, I'll just call them out on it. I'll be like, can I bring you in and talk to you and tell you how like your energy's kind of intense, you know?
Mm.
Not to say that I don't also hold myself accountable for my own shit, because I am human and I'm still learning and I'm still growing, and my reaction to things can be very much because of my own trauma and based on my own limitations of my understanding of that trauma and my current understanding of myself, right? So I
Mhm.
try to always hold myself accountable. But like you're gonna find me people, but I also I keep people at bay. My spirit, and we talked about this too, like you have to allow your spirit to kind of be like a compass for these people. Like, what do you feel when you're around them? What is this movement? Like, what is this feeling? And if they're not making you happy, if they're not making you think, if they're not um calling you out on your shit, but also celebrating you for all of like your successes. Like There's no time. I don't have time. Like I just don't have, because I'm that friend that if I'm like, oh my God, you have a podcast? Ah! Like you got a podcast. That is so cool. Get him, get him, get him, get him. Like, and if people can't, I'm not a guest person. I'm gonna be like, okay, I listened to your podcast and this is what I think and that, but it's super amazing. And by the way, like if you need to rein me in because I am a talker. So like
Okay.
But also like, okay, so going back to like your okay, so yeah, so just be kind, celebrate people, and if they don't celebrate you, keep it moving. But what we were talking about the pride thing. Oh, how did I come out?
So
how did you come out? And also like maybe you weren't as like so aware of like kind of like the attitude of like possibly the gay scene in Los Angeles. Like how did you navigate like when you were younger too?
Well,
you know?
I have a very unique story in that the first thing is I never had the ability to hide my queer identity. Like I literally came out like a fucking queen, and I was like, I've always been very gentle, very kind, and I was always like hola tia, hola, like kisses and hugs, and I wanted to dance and I wanted to sing and I wanted to be like, can I look in your bag? Can I look in your purse and play with your makeup? Like I never so by the time I was outed by the history on Internet Explorer, if you had the internet back in the day, you know what I'm talking about. I didn't realize that whenever I was searching for like Brad Pitt's penis, it was in the history. Like it would show up in the history, right? So whenever I was like, yes, I'm looking for like oh, sexy gay men, it would show up in history. So my dad went in to fix the internet because he was like, it's being really slow. So he went in and he saw the history, and that motherfucker outed me. Sorry, I don't know if I can cuss.
You can do whatever you want, yeah.
And I basically was like, he sat me down. I was crying, and he was like, "What is this? Like, are you gay?" And I was like, "No!" I didn't even answer him. And at the time, I was still figuring these things out because I actually was hooking up with a lot of my girlfriends, but I was experimenting. So I was 12 years old, so I identified at the time, I still kind of do on and off. I identified as bisexual. Again, I still kind of do. Actually, I just learned androsexual, I think, is one that I'm like identifying as lately, which is just like you don't care what somebody's gender it was assigned at birth, you just like masculine vibes. So I'm like, I don't care with what you're working with. I just like a good like just let me know that you're gonna protect me in an alley. You know, like we're gonna like throw down together.
Nice. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah. So and I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, apologies now and forever. But like the other thing, so I was out, so my mom like came downstairs, I was crying, and she was like, she took me to my room and she was holding me, and I came out to her. I was like, okay, it's official, like that. And she held on to me, and she was like I remember her like caressing rubbing my hair and playing with my curls, and she was like, you know, it's also okay to masturbate. And I was like, does she know that I masturbate, or is she telling me to not hook up with guys and to masturbate instead? So that was it. She didn't say anything. There was no like, I don't remember anything else. She probably said I love you no matter what, but I just remember her telling me it was okay to masturbate.
Yeah.
So now I am a full grown adult, masturbating adult, loving myself, giving myself some of the best orgasms.
Hell yeah. That's what's
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks to Mom's advice, you know? But yeah, I mean, and then on the flip of that too, because I came out so early, I also started to go to gay clubs at a very early age. And by gay clubs, I mean gay club. Because in LA, and I love talking about my queer experience because my experience just around culture started very early, but my queer experience has always been very Black and brown centric. Like I came up in this club called The Arena, which is, if you're from LA, you know The Arena. The Arena is was kind of like the club that popped everyone's cherry at some point. In the 90s,
Hollywood Boulevard.
It's on Santa Monica. Santa
Yes.
Monica, yep. But I mean, look, those streets are confusing. So like they in the 90s, it was the place for house music. DJ Irene, who is a prolific Latina or Latinx DJ, used to play the best bangers there. And then in the late 90s and the early 2000s, when I started to come up, I used to go to this club, a night called Club Delicious. And it was almost exclusively for Black and brown kids. who came from different neighborhoods. So they weren't necessarily dressed like the way that you expected queer people to dress at the time. They were dressed kind of, we used to call them homo thugs back in the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like everybody was kind of dressed up. Like if you can picture Destiny's Child's Soldier, I need a soldier and he's got to stand up for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is the vibe. That was just the feeling. And so that was like, I'm 13 years old, I'm 12 years old, and I'm looking up and I'm like, wow, like this is amazing. And then I just basically never left. Like those scenes ended up kind of flowing between the arena, Circus, which was the club behind it, and then downtown into Mustache Mondays, where we started to like who was also put together by a beautiful queer Latinx individual who's like, I call him the patron saint of LA, is Nacho. Yes, Nacho. And Laura, I think you knew Nacho.
Nacho, rest in peace.
Yes, rest in peace.
Partying up there, watching down on all of us. Yes. Thank you so much for the input you had into culture. Mustache Mondays, wow, was the funnest party in downtown LA. Wow.
So much fun. And like the way that I would describe Mustache and Nacho was very like, he would welcome everybody to the table. He didn't care. Like, 'cause he didn't care if people didn't fuck with you. He was like, I like you, so come to the table, you know? And we would all go and you would see, I almost feel like predominantly POC kids with some white kids sprinkled in, who were dressing up in ways that even our own POC communities didn't understand. So like if I didn't want to wear like a certain type of look, but I wanted to wear a giant hat like this, like I'm wearing right now, Nacho and the crowd that Nacho drew understood fashion and understood the intersectionality of being a POC kid from LA who just wanted to look a little fabulous, you know? And then there would be somebody like in middle of the dance floor who was doing like an artistic dance piece and that included like blood and feces. And you were like, great, that's art. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And you're 13. At what point you're 13 at this point, or a bit older?
No, so Nacho, I was actually 19.
Okay.
And I DM'd him. I sent him a message on MySpace and I was like, hi, I've heard of your stories. I was already working for David LaChapelle too. I was like, I work for Dave. I was trying to name drop, and as many people do.
It's a thing in LA. We have to
oh my god, it's such a thing. It's such a thing. It is what it is. It's horrible, but it also like sometimes if you know a friend, I'm like, oh my god, I love her. So like it definitely helps. So I was like, I work for David LaChapelle. I would love to come to your parties. And I was like, but I'm 19. I'm hoping that I can. And he was like, you know what? Hit me up when you're 21, and we'll see. We'll make it happen. And I performed something. For legal reasons, we'll say it's fictional. But I basically changed the number on my passport to reflect the age that I wanted to be. I was an artist, so I drew on my passport. And then I showed up, and Nacho let me. You know, and Nacho didn't know. He was just like, okay, well, according to this, you turn 21 in a month, so welcome to the party. Nice. And so by that age, I was a little bit older.
And so, dang, yeah, I mean, really, growing up in LA it's such a privilege because, I mean, I'm not from here, so I'm from New Jersey, but just hearing it from you guys and just knowing all my friends that did grow up here and just all the things that they were able to experience at such a young age and just be able to have that type of power it's so revolutionary, this city.
It's so nice. And it really just kind of like, I love it because now that I'm hoping to keep growing and I'm hoping to keep climbing, but like I'm not interested in a lot of the stories that people want to tell. I'm not interested in a lot of like different white stories. I'm not interested in a lot of stories of what people think LA is like. I'm like, LA is not, it's like not as cutthroat as you think. There are families and culture that's out here in family neighborhoods, and we like enjoy each other's company, enjoy each other's dances and music, each other's food. Like it's not like I'm gonna have my kale smoothie and I'm gonna be on the west side and I'm gonna just drink it out in the sun. Like, bitch, we got jobs. Like we are out here working. Like if I can go out there and have a smoothie, like it's because I have like a day off. Like it's not even, and I'm not even going for the smoothie. I'm fucking gonna go get dinuguan at the local Filipino shop. Like,
okay. those are the stories that we need to hear. And, that's why we hold this space for the Conscious Kitchen podcast, because we want to highlight these heart-to-heart conversations that you have in the kitchen. These stories of, people of color and all the different types of crazy stories that happen in Los Angeles from all around the world. So yes, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yes.
And so while you were telling us your story, you told us a little bit about you kind of dabbling in your aunt's like purses and going in through like their makeup. So I saw that your grandma was one of the people that would always really allow you to just have fun with all of her makeup and stuff. Tell us about that, and how did that come about? And was she always open to it?
My grandma is, the older I get, the more I realize the genius of her insanity, of who she is as a human. Like, I always I have to take a step back and I have to look at people in the way that the creator might have created them and be like, they're fucking insane, but like, great job, Lord. Like, you really this is an interesting human. And so my grandma would literally, behind my back to my dad, would be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. He's gay, like, look at that. But to me, she would be like, I have some wigs in my bedroom if you want to play with them, like, da-da-da. Like, oh my God, you can totally play with my makeup. Like, so to me, I don't know if she was maybe trying to save face for my dad, or trying to maybe she thought that's what he was going through and she needed to be a mom to him. But to me, she was absolutely celebratory. To me, she was very she was very not okay with it, but I think she just was watching me. Like, she would, the other day recently, she was like, I know you had a crush on that guy. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? And she's like, you totally liked him. I was like, no, I didn't. And I was like so embarrassed about it, but I'm like, damn, she's watching this little kid and she you just know, like, you think you're hiding, and she knew. It was powerful in that I had my grandmother and another tia, her daughter, who really allowed me to be myself, because I really, I came up in a lot of POC communities, machismo and the male energy really can be toxic, and it can do things that really can be damaging, and they change you. And so for me, these women who were powerful women who actually were like, we don't give a fuck about these men. My grandma had 3 husbands, and my grandma was my grandma was very much of like, they might hit me, but I hit them back. Like, we're fighting. I'm not like, you're not hitting me, we're fighting. And I'm not condoning violence, and I'm not saying that that's a good thing. And definitely, if you're in a toxic relationship, get out of that. But it was just it was a difference in what I grew up in, because at home, I actually grew up in an abusive household where I did watch my mother get beat. I did watch my mother, and sorry if this is triggering for people, I should trigger warning. But I did watch that. So for my grandmother and my aunt to kind of be the opposite of that, to kind of be like, no, we're not doing that. It was very empowering to me as a young queer kid, because it kind of gave me a little bit more of room to grow, room to discover myself, room to understand who I was as a young queer kid, and also feel safe. Like, also just like, when I would lock myself in my grandma's house, her apartment, and play with Barbies, that was the funnest thing to me. Like, whoa, like, Barbies are so cool. Like, you get to put dresses on them, and they have like beautiful hair. And I also was dealing with like different gender stuff. Like, I still always deal with different gender stuff about how I identify, which we can also get into as well. But to me, Barbies were like, I could actually see myself in this Barbie, and it was like infusing my spirit into her. So it was very symbolic to be allowed to play with Barbies. But I wasn't allowed to at home. So I'm always thankful for my grandma for giving me that space, for giving me kind of like the room to sit on her lap, do her makeup, do her hair, try on her wigs. And now that I'm older, we talk about gay sex all the time. We talk about it all the time. Like, literally, she doesn't understand it. The other day, she was just like, I don't understand how you take it in the butt. And I'm like, I don't either. And I don't know that a lot of us understand it either, but where else is it gonna go?
I love that.
That's so awesome. I mean, that's special, definitely. I mean, definitely with the age difference, and having those type of conversations, that's pretty rad.
Absolutely. It's absolutely, and it is super dope to just be able to have those conversations with an older woman. And I think what we like to do is we like to shock each other. So she'll say things that try to shock me, but I'm like, girl, like, it's literally 2021. Like, I'm not you would be shocked if you knew what was happening out in the world. So like so I try to shock her, and we just spend literally so much time together cracking up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's so special.
That's the true definition of loving you unconditionally and without judgment. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you always have so much going on, right? So you have like your work, you have your life, and everyone has ups and downs. How do you find sometimes motivation to be creative and to create for your different channels, for your different platforms?
Sorry, I sometimes, if I'm sitting like I'm crouched over the way that I do, I'm like, oh, I need to sit up so I can breathe. I need to like breathe a little. It's hard. It's so hard. It's so hard. But and everybody, you know, between like doing your jobs, doing things that are healthy for you, your spirit, your mind, and then doing things that are just like, can I just read a book? Can I just like go outside? Can I take a nap? Like it's so hard. So I definitely struggle, and I think that I hope that most humans are in this with me, and if they're not, then it must be me. But I'm also okay with it just being me, because when I need a nap, I take a fucking nap. I will go to my car and be like, it's lunch. I'm gonna nap in my car during lunch. I don't care. But what I have done lately, because with all these new platforms coming out, like first you're like, there's this it's YouTube, and now there's like, you got to get on Periscope, and now you got to get on like Twitter, and well, Twitter came first, but like, you know, Instagram, and now there's TikTok, and now there's like all these different things, Clubhouse, like, oh my God, like there's so many different things. I'm very much like, pick the one that inspires you the most, pick the ones that you feel like you want to be on. They can also be intimidating, so pick like what's your interpretation of how you can do this too. Like one of my besties on my team, her name's Maya Murillo. She's really, she hates when I roll my R really hard in her last name. Her name is Maya Murillo. She's like, my name is Maya Murillo. So, but I always go Maya Murillo, just like my real name is Carlitos. But if someone goes Carlitos, I'm like, you don't have to. You can roll the R. But anyway, I was like, I don't know about TikTok. I feel like I'm kind of a little like, I maybe might be a little too old for TikTok. And she's an Aries, and I'm a Virgo, but I have a lot of fire energy. My grandmother's a Leo, and my tia that I was talking about earlier is an Aries. So I was raised by a lot of fire energy. So the minute you tell me like, I don't think you can do that, I'm like, maybe you're right. And then I sit there and be like, actually, fuck that. Like, I'm gonna, so I love that. I pushed back. She was like, you're right, you're too old. And I was like, no, and she knew what she was doing. She knew what she was doing. So I get on there, and I was like, man, I was trying to find my space in this TikTok world. And I was hitting, but like not hitting that hard. And then I listened to this amazing podcast, a Dolly Parton podcast. It's called like Dolly's America or something like that. And in it, she talks about, and Dolly, any other interview, she talks about, she's always like, I hear music everywhere. Like everything is a song to me. And so I was thinking about how she's not precious about her music. She just writes a song. She's not expecting to write an I Will Always Love You. She's not expecting to write a Jolene every time. She's just writing songs. And so I'm like, I need to not be precious about my content and be like, I'm going to write this and hope that it does well and hope that it goes viral. I'm just going to make content. And so now everything that I see is like content to me. Everything that I see is like, oh, that would be really funny. I'm just going to make it. And if it does well, it does well. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And literally it's been helping my numbers on every platform. People are kind of experiencing me in a different way. I'm also letting people more in, because I think that early Instagram days, it was about, what kind of life you wanted, what kind of image you wanted to present to people. Like, I'm this, I dress like this, I have this gift, I'm also this, and think of that. And now I think there's a huge push towards people wanting to see real people. They don't want to see and feel bad about their own lives. Like, they don't want to open up Instagram and be like, man, Laura's in fucking Spain and I'm here like a fucking potato on my couch. What they want to see is like, oh, like Laura and Curly are like in Spain or whatever, but like someone got diarrhea. They got diarrhea or something, like, or they're just like, oh man,
authenticity, right? Everyone's looking for authenticity on social media now. Gone are the days of fluff and like, oh, look at this latte and look at that. It's all about like, tell me about yourself. Like, what are you going through? What are your struggles? And that's what's really feeding the internet right now.
Exactly. Yeah, so take off the pressure of like performance, and have fun.
But with that, But with that thought, right? So you said something that you try not to not get too almost like invested, right? You're just going to put it out there and what happens happens. When you are putting yourself out there, how do you not get that invested? Because you're sharing a piece of your heart, you're sharing a piece of who you are. How do you
Yes.
and when it doesn't, like, I don't know, maybe doesn't generate the attention that you want, how do you separate that feeling?
Usually sometimes it sucks is like with like longer form videos, for example, like I made this amazing video and I was trying to start it every time I'm trying to do some good, just like the views are a little bit different. So like I was trying to do it, I'm still doing it. It's called Mommy Makeover. And basically it's a show about
Amazing.
honoring women in our life, whether they're like your older sister or a tia or a mother or a grandmother, and kind of giving them the space to express themselves in ways that they maybe felt like they couldn't. Maybe it was too dangerous in the country that they're from. Women are always sexualized, and there's always like this danger in being seen by cishet men. And or they kind of give up their lives for their family, for their husband, for their kids, for their partner. And so the last thing that they have on their mind is like, oh, let me try this new silhouette that I've never tried before. Like, so I wanted to develop this thing about like, let me try to dress up these senoras, these women, in outfits that are more modern and kind of show them like, actually, you can still be hot. You can be a grandma. You can be a mom. You can be all these things and feel empowered in the way that you look. Because my boyfriend's always like, well, not everybody wants to be hot. And I'm like, I understand that. And I totally get it. But like, I know when I feel hot, when I feel sexy, like I just move different. I talk different. I have more expectations. Also, too, I know I keep fucking with this curl. I'm like, like just like stay together, everybody. If you have curly hair and you have that one curl that just sticks out, you're like, grr, grr. So I just wanted to empower people. So like, it did okay, it did decent, but the people, and it kind of hurts because you're like, you want it to go viral, you want it to go super well. But the people who experience the video, who actually sit with the content, who watch it, and who are moved spiritually to want to do that for the women in their own life or for themselves, like that's what you do it for. So I've been around YouTubers who have millions of followers, who have millions of viewers, and who get so much money, who are like making a shit ton of money. And I don't feel intimidated by them because my audience is like smaller, but to me, it's more meaningful because I know that somewhere out there's a queer Latinx person, there is a femme out there who feels more whole and more complete. And just because they see that somebody else exists who's just like them. And they then want to turn around and express that something of love and kindness to somebody in their life, their mother, their sister, their abuela, like their dad. Like, if I can do that, if I can inspire you to call someone you love, if I can inspire you to be like, my grandma is crazy, but like, I love her. Like, and you can, and you can go and you can hit her up and you can do all that stuff. Like, that's what I want to do. I don't want to inspire you to melt your makeup palette into a pot so you can see what the colors look like. Like, who cares? I don't want to inspire you to be like, I bought these things. I let Instagram shop for me. Like, no, like, I hope that you walk away from my content and you go like, what do I identify as? Like, how can I acknowledge my own privilege? How can I acknowledge where I can hold others accountable, but also myself accountable in the system? Like, I just want people to think more,
Yeah.
So
definitely changing the world with your content, Curly.
Oh my God. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're the voice that we needed in the storytelling media portion of YouTube, honestly.
For sure.
I mean, how many freaking Latinx people are in California, in the whole United States that aren't being showcased? So many.
A lot of us. Yep. I did want to say though that like it's really interesting because I did make this one video for TikTok and I was like, it's just me telling a story because if you hang out with me, I'm always telling stories. I'm like, and then this happened. So I tell this story about how I left a skid mark on this guy's bed because I was really drunk, and that's the video that went viral. Like on there, and I'm like, like that's the video.
I know.
I'm out here trying to change the world, and the fucking skid mark story. That's what you want from me.
Yeah.
And I freaked out. I was calling like my bestie Maya again, and I was like, I don't want to be known as a skid mark guy on TikTok. Should I take it down? Should I take it down? She's like, girl, ride the wave, and
it's out. It's out.
Yeah,
it's out.
I think the best thing about like social media is to take risks and have fun with it, and take the pressure off,
Absolutely. I also
Yeah.
like want to commend you too, Laura. Like I remember when we were kids and we were coming up, like y'all were hitting it, y'all were riding that wave too. Like y'all hit the nerve on like, I mean, on what people, and specifically I think like a lot of young women of color like were wanting to look like, wanting to dress like, and it's definitely like when you find it you got to lean in, you know, like so like
Yeah.
props to you for like being a tastemaker and you know
Thanks,
continuing
babe.
to push that, of course.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm just kind of reflecting on the whole thing, and I kind of realized like me and my business partner at the time with Dime Piece, we kind of just put our head down and just kept being consistent with putting shit out. We kind of
Mm-hmm.
just like, yeah, we got a lot of backlash. Yeah, we got sued by like cat companies, hundreds of companies. But at the end
Wow.
of the day, like we really just put our head down and try to just be a voice.
Yeah.
And that was through activism. Also, it was just like through our t-shirts
Yeah.
was through that, whether it
What
be
I also
sexual,
remember,
political.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Yeah,
to interrupt you.
yeah,
I'll
no.
go after you finish.
Oh no, that's it.
Well, what I remember is that y'all started in the garage or someone's room, right? Like
Yeah, a room that it was like the spare bedroom to my mom's house in
in your
Rancho
mom's
Cucamonga.
house. Yeah, yeah. I feel like I
Mhm.
remember that you told me like we started off in a room. It was a small little room. And so to me, I think that that's so dope too that like there is the possibilities are endless. Like all you have to do is make a little corner for yourself and get
Mhm.
started.
Mhm.
Yeah. The point is not perfectionism. It's like, just also just being consistent. Like, can you tell us about also like how you stay consistent with media and like, did you ever have moments where you wanted to give up?
All the time. And like also too, I will say, like, I think you said it too. The point is to stay consistent. And I think that that's true. The point is not to write the I will always love you and the Jolines. The point is to
Mhm.
build a body of work, right? So like
Mhm.
I always think about Betty White a lot too. Like I'm always like,
Mm.
Betty White, I'm sure when she was coming up with all these other Hollywood actresses and all these people, like I'm sure she looked around her and was like, why am I not in that movie? Like, damn, I haven't gotten an Oscar or I haven't gotten this, or I don't know, maybe she has. I haven't done the research on that. But I don't know all those other actresses' names. I don't know all
Mhm.
those other people. I know Betty White's name because she's still rolling and she's still going and she's had this like amazing, iconic career. And so
She's
I'm like,
timeless. She's like timeless at this point.
exactly. And
Yes.
so I'm like, if I'm like, look, Lloyd, if you're not going to give me this, what I want right now, I at least want the timelessness. I at least want like the long career where when I'm 90, I'm not worried about like, damn, how am I going to pay for this house? Like, what I want the house to be paid for. I want to not be, I want to be able to still afford Uber Eats and like, you know, like somehow get my food delivered to me or an assistant who can do all those things. I always say I want to be able, when I get to that age, I want to be able to have the ability to feed myself, wipe my own ass. I'm too shy. I'm too shy to let anyone back there. Shave and then be able to afford an assistant to bring me food and to drive me around. Like that's just my
Mhm.
like that is what I want, you know?
Mhm.
But that
Mhm.
Love
wasn't the
it.
answer. That wasn't your question. What was your question?
No, I mean just talking about consistency and like how you stuck around. But I mean, obviously this is what you love to do. And I
Right.
heard the best quote today was like consistency is a gift. And it's just a
Mm.
gift that keeps on giving, because
Mhm.
people, I mean, you could put out 3 videos and give up. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
you constantly became successful because you gave that gift
Yeah.
of keep putting out great content, you know?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's like
Mhm.
don't be precious about it. Don't be precious about it. Don't be like, "Oh, I hope that this blows up." Just keep going. If you
Yeah.
like, especially I think when literally the product is you talking, the product is you, like it can be hard, it can be draining, but like I'm not remember I used to make clothes. I was a designer for a long time. So I used to like
Mhm.
I'm not sewing dresses. That is physically like I was like, "Oh my God, I'm tired and I'm not seeing the
Mhm.
money in return to make all these dresses." But if I can simulate thought and simulate human growth towards a better understanding of each other, um, and pay my bills with that, like, yeah, absolutely. Like, why wouldn't I? It's not my, I also feel like, and a lot of my boyfriends are always like, I just when I go out or when this, like, I want you for me and I want to like spend time with you. And I feel like my life and my energy, like it's not meant for just me, it's meant for others and I have to share it. And it's not like, oh, I'm meant to share my thing because I feel it. I'm like, no, I if you sit around me long enough, I'm gonna ask you deep questions that you're gonna go
Mhm.
like, huh.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you definitely have like this, like I said in the intro to
You're a
this podcast,
star.
you have like this, yeah, you're a star. You
Dude.
have like this shining bright and you can really see it. And it's so
Oh my
apparent.
God, thank
And
you.
you are really inspiring people. I mean, I love that video of doing the makeover with your mom. Like, I'm going to see my mom. I'm driving to New Jersey and I haven't seen her in over a
Yes.
year. And I'm like, I'm going to do that for her. And it like brought me tears to my eyes, like seeing her little face when you asked her, like, oh, do you feel like sexy, you know?
Mhm.
And it was really, yeah,
Gonna cry again.
yeah, it was so heartfelt. And so I think
Yes.
that it's such a beautiful thing what you're doing and putting
Yes.
yourself out there.
Yeah, so
And for those
beautiful.
listening who haven't seen it, it's on the Better Like. It's called Mommy Makeover.
Yes. Check it out.
And yes, definitely check it out. And there's a scene where my mom starts crying and she does go like, I'm like, do you feel sexy? And she starts crying and it breaks my heart because it is so powerful for individuals to feel whole and complete and to move according to that power, right? Like, and I think that a lot of times the women in our lives, the femmes in our lives are robbed of that, you know? And I feel like POC women are robbed of that, like the understanding that like you can do that. You can do whatever you want. Your life is still very much yours. So if you want to go and play with makeup or you want to do your hair or you don't, or you want to be ugly and you want to be a potato on the couch, like that is your life. Like absolutely feel empowered to do those things, you know?
Yes.
Love it, Carly.
Yeah, said. So tell us, we're getting towards near the closing of this episode, and we've loved everything you've shared with us. But I'd love to know if people, there are other Latinos, Latinx people out there that want to follow in your footsteps, working for someone like Pero Like and doing those types of things. Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, and working with BuzzFeed, which is the hugest like platform
oh my God.
and journalism, like media company. Like, yeah, any tips?
Any tips for wanting to get in it? Just get started. Do it. I think that the rules of the game have been thrown out completely. I have this beautiful life bestie friend who, you know, she wanted to study anthropology for the longest time, and because she wanted to be able to give people their culture back, because academia and a lot of things are run by white voices and white people. And she was like, but it's so fucking hard. And I was like, girl, all you have to do is read the book and then go on TikTok and make it digestible for people to understand it, and you will become the expert. You will become the people that people go to, because they'll be like, finally a brown woman is talking about these things and like giving me a better understanding of it. Like, and she's like, you're right. And I'm like, the world has changed. I don't want to hear from it. Sometimes I talk to professors and I talk to scholars and people in academia, and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? What the fuck is that word that you're using? I didn't go to college. I don't know what that word means. Say it in a way that I get it. And then they'll say it. I'm like, why can't you say that? Why are you, you know, like, who are you trying to impress in this room? It's just me and you know? So I think that, yes, definitely do it. Don't be afraid. The world is not like, you don't have to go step one, just do it. Like if you have the privilege to have a phone in your pocket, you have the power to create content and make some change and do some good.
Yes. Yeah. Get your hands dirty, use those DMs, get on LinkedIn, whatever you can, you know?
Yes.
Assist, work for free, do whatever you need to do.
Yeah. And so what's in the cards for you 2022? Like what's going on in you and beyond?
I'm in a lot of different talks right now for a lot of different projects. My ultimate goal is to make sure that I stay visible for people, not so much for me, but so that people can understand queer identity, whether that's gender fluid identity, whether that's Latinx identity, so that they can be like, oh, I can do that too. I can celebrate myself too. And while doing that, my dream of dreams is to be able to bring in my friends who are part of the experience, who can write scripts, who we can talk about these stories, like you know, what is the Laura story? What is the Liz story? Like, how do we show them and how do we tell stories, not just for us, for everyone, but by us? Like, let us tell our own story. So like I'm just excited to be able to be like, what is the queer story in LA for Black and brown kids? Not what people think like LA, like, oh, it's all in East LA. I was always in East LA. Like, I'm gonna give you that, like, for sure.
Yeah, me
but
too.
I'm like, but also we were in Hollywood. Also we were here. We were in all these other spaces. And I'm like, where are those stories? There are people in other areas, and there are people of color in other areas in LA.
Exactly.
So true. Yeah, that's similar to what we aim to do with our podcast too. You know, it's like bringing in all all of our friends and having them tell like their stories
Yes.
and just feature them as all these untold stories, because we all have such dynamic backgrounds and interests and so much to share. So it's
Absolutely.
exciting to be able to do that. So is that what your aim is to do with your new Latinx project as well? Or can
Yes.
you tell
So
us about that?
New Latinx is very much a profile, Instagram profile. It's NU Latinx, and it's basically I wanted to just showcase and highlight people that like you didn't see in any sort of media. Like I wanted to show people who were non-binary, non-conforming. I wanted to show people of trans experience. I wanted to show Black Latinx people. I wanted to show Indigenous Latinx people, or people who like just surprise you, you know, and you're like, what? Like people like can look like that. And it's like,
Mhm.
yes, we are not a monolith. And also, I don't want to be a monolith. And I heard this other really beautiful thing, like the Latinx community is not a community, it's a group of communities. And I thought that was so powerful, just to change in the letters at the end of that word. And so it's just me showing the different communities within our own. My dream, my ultimate dream is to grow, but I want to grow with my friends. I want to grow with diverse people. So that to me is the ultimate goal with anything that I do, with New Latinx, with the scripts that I'm writing, with the books that I'm working on, with the fashion, like all that stuff.
Yes.
Awesome.
Netflix, HBO, hit Curly up ASAP.
Yes. I
Yeah.
want to say that it's so amazing to see both of you working on this amazing project, two women of color. I'm so thankful to be able to share a space with you both. I'm honored that you thought of me, and I'm happy that we shared this beautiful morning together, just chatting it up. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry I
Yes.
like talk so much. Like I'm like,
No, Curly, that's all good, baby. We're here for you to shine. And where can people find you? Like, I mean, we'll put obviously all your information in the bio description, but just like shout it out.
awesome. You can find me on Instagram and on TikTok at the Curly V Show. V is in Victor. So at the Curly V Show, Instagram and TikTok. Instagram is more like family friendly. TikTok is definitely where you'll hear about all the skid marks. And it's a good time.
Yeah. So you guys be sure to, share this episode, share this with someone right now you think that will, resonate, will love Curly's story, and just, showcase amazing people in our community for Pride Month. So we're celebrating you, Curly. Thank you so much for everything.
Woo! For having me.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for tuning in. And don't forget, we are collecting hot tips. You can head over to our website, consciouskitchenpodcast.com, and figure out how to send us your hot tips so we can include you guys in season 4.
Cool. Thank you guys for listening to Conscious Kitchen Podcast, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take
See
care,
you next
everybody.
time.
Bye.